Ray and his wife Maggie are moving, hoping to start fresh. They recently lost their daughter. It's every parent's worst nightmare. Despite everything, Ray and Maggie are trying to cope with the grief together. The couple plans to open their own motel in the new location. Ray's acquaintance and the previous motel owner, Ben, has given them the premises. Perhaps this will be a good opportunity to let go of the past and move forward. Ray inspected all the rooms of their future motel. At first glance, there was nothing unusual. After checking the last 10th room, Ray left. Later, he noticed a group of suspicious guys at the gas station across the road. Before Ray went to sleep, Ben called him to make sure everything was okay. Starting the next day, they prepared the motel for opening. Ray did most of the work himself, as he was used to it. There was a lock hanging on one of the doors, and no key. During the day, when Ray found a photo of the daughter, it made him remember again why they were really here. In the hardware store, Ray bought everything he needed. He used the tools to open the lock on that door and went inside. There was a lot of junk lying around. Suddenly Ray noticed someone in one of the rooms. Maggie said it was their first guest, even though the official opening was tomorrow. Maggie really likes it here and believes their business will thrive. At night a man named Tommy, a truck driver, came to the motel and asked for the 10th room. It turns out Tommy is a regular customer. He tried to be friendly and left a tip for the new owner. Through the window, Tommy saw Ray coming out of his truck with a woman. Probably he picked her up on the road. The woman from the 6th room also seemed to have guests. Some car drove away from the motel. Ray couldn't sleep, troubled by what might be happening in the 6th room where the blonde woman lived. The next morning in the storage room, Ray accidentally found a hole in the wall, behind which was a tunnel. Of course Ray intended to explore it. It turns out that in room 10, there was a one-way mirror, providing the ability to observe the occupants. Ray was puzzled and didn't know how to proceed. For some reason he didn't tell his wife about the discovery. Tommy always books the same room, the 10th. It didn't even bother him that the maid hadn't cleaned the room today. At night when Maggie fell asleep, Ray returned to the mirror and observed Tommy having a good time with some lady. Ray didn't stay there long, as he didn't want to watch it. The same car as yesterday was parked in front of the 6th room. Since Maggie is always tired, Ray misses her attention. He even dreams that the maid is showing unmistakable interest in him. Early in the morning, the couple was awakened by the doorbell. It was their maid Ava. Ray gave her a duplicate of the keys so she wouldn't wake them up again. All the while, Ray was thinking about the mirror. Every time Tommy brought different women to the 10th room. This went on day after day. One day Maggie told her husband that she moved the blonde from the 6th room to the 10th because she needed a room with a double bed. Seeing an adoption brochure on the table, Ray asked his wife what it meant. Some time ago, the spouses had discussed the possibility of adoption, but Ray wasn't ready for it yet. He needed time. Maggie reminded him that they came here to start a new life, but everything is still the same. Ray shouted that he wouldn't just let their daughter be replaced. The couple had a quarrel. Ray went to the convenience store at the gas station. The seller hinted to the new motel owner that he was ready to help if there was trouble with the locals. He and his guys keep the whole neighborhood in fear. These guys really look suspicious. Soon Tommy came again, upset that his favorite 10th room was occupied. Ray offered him another. He knows what Tommy does there. However, Tommy is not ashamed of it. His wife has long cooled towards him, so Tommy seeks what he lacks with other women. In a way, Ray understands him. Late at night, Ray couldn't resist and returned to the mirror, seeing the blonde with some woman. Ray clearly enjoyed what he saw. A little later when Ray left, the blonde remained alone in the room. At least that's what she thought. Suddenly someone attacked her from behind. In the morning, the couple saw a police car parked near the motel. It was Sheriff Howard Keller, who wanted to personally meet the new owner. Ray explained that he used to be an electrician and carpenter but wanted to try something new and change the environment. When the sheriff asked where Ben had gone, Ray said he didn't know. He had known Ben for a very short time and had no idea about his plans. Before leaving, Howard asked Ray to write down Ben's mailing address if he contacted them. The relationship between the spouses began to get better. In the evening they had fun in a bar, letting go of all the problems. They returned late and were in very high spirits. When Ray went to the kitchen to get a drink, Maggie, who stayed outside, saw something horrible and called out to her husband. There was a pig carcass in the pool. The question was, who would want it? While Maggie washed her hands in the bathroom, Ray found a photograph of a girl whose name, judging by the caption on the back, was Chrissy. Maggie couldn't come to her senses, so she took a sedative. Ray took the carcass away from here and disposed of it in a fire. Upon returning, Ray saw Tommy near the motel, planning to book a room, and as usual being very talkative. Ray shared that they had an unpleasant situation. Tommy said that some time ago, an incident occurred at the motel. A certain girl voluntarily passed away. She was found in the pool. Apparently, Ben didn't tell Ray about it so he wouldn't lose a buyer. But according to Tommy, Ben was not involved in that incident. Of course, Ray was deeply shocked by what he heard. When he came to the bedroom, his wife was already asleep. The next morning, the couple told Howard about what happened last night. The sheriff was interested in why Ray was absent for several hours, as witnesses reported. Ray explained that he was driving around and listening to music, trying to calm down. Howard found this explanation acceptable and promised to look into it. When Ray asked if it had anything to do with the incident with Chrissy, the sheriff said there were many unresolved circumstances in this story. According to Howard, Chrissy didn't harm herself, someone else did it. Chrissy lost her parents, led a vagabond lifestyle and got involved with a bad guy from Los Angeles. This happened several months ago. Coincidentally, on the day of the incident, Ray was in these parts. Witnesses saw his Jeep. Suddenly the sheriff asked if it was Ray's doing. Ray was puzzled, while Howard continued to ask him if he did it. But after a minute, Howard relaxed and told Ray that there was nothing to worry about. This made Ray quite nervous. The sheriff was obviously a strange guy, like many of the locals. That night, the girl who was with the blonde the day before came to the motel and asked for room 10. Ray was sure that the blonde had already left, so he gave the guest that room. Later, Maggie saw Ray standing in front of 10th room through the window. This made her remember their daughter again. The pain of loss continues to haunt Maggie. In the morning, Ray was awakened by the shouts of the maid, who, as it turned out, saw a snake in the bathtub of one of the rooms. Ray removed the reptile. The maid refused to clean this room. When Ray entered the house, his wife asked him to come to the TV. The news reported that a certain Jessica Phillips was found lifeless. This was the same girl who was the first guest in their motel. Ray immediately went to room 10 to search for anything suspicious. But there were no signs of a crime. Ray went somewhere while Maggie was reading information about this case on the internet. Suddenly the doorbell rang. It was Howard, who wanted to ask Maggie a few questions about Ray. Maggie tried to call her husband, but his phone was left at home. The same girl who booked room 10 came again. Seeing the family photo of Maggie and Ray, the girl advised her to keep an eye on him. Ray returned late and saw some girl. Ray immediately went to the mirror and witnessed something indecent in room 10. It seems their new guest knows a thing or two about such things. Ray couldn't sleep, thinking about what might be happening behind the closed door of room 10. Suddenly Ray noticed a guy running from the pool. Someone had splashed the wall with red paint. Angry, Ray went to the convenience store and asked the seller if he had seen anything suspicious. The man denied seeing anything. Ray began to suspect that the seller was somehow involved. As Ray was leaving, the guys at the gas station hinted that Ray had something to fear. Many locals don't like the new motel owner. Outsiders are generally not welcome here. Noticing a car driving away, Ray decided to follow the woman. Maggie saw this through the window. This led Ray to a tavern. Taking his gun, he entered. It was an ordinary bar, of which there are many in the county. Ray sat at the table of that girl and directly asked if she knew anything about what happened to Jessica Phillips. The girl avoided the answer, actively flirting with Ray. He repeated his question, intending to find out the truth at any cost. The girl only said that Jessica desperately needed a friend. She supposedly knew nothing more. The girl, whose name turned out to be Cassie, is waiting for someone here. The guy who appeared rudely drove Ray away. This led to a fight, but the guy stopped being so bold when he saw Ray's gun. Before leaving, Ray told Cassie to stay away from his motel. At home, Maggie in tears demanded explanations from Ray. Understanding that the wife suspects him of infidelity, Ray called it complete nonsense. Maggie said that Howard came today and asked what Ray was doing on the night of Jessica's disappearance. Ray didn't have time to explain anything because Maggie locked herself in the bathroom. She no longer wants to see her husband. Ray had to break down the door because he feared that his wife might do something rash. Maggie kept yelling at him to get out. In the morning, Ray, waking up, saw Maggie packing her things. She wants to live with her mother for a while to think everything over and decide if she needs this marriage at all. Ray begged his wife to stay, but Maggie no longer wants to live in lies. So Ray had to show her the one-way mirror. Maggie can't believe that her husband was spying on the guests. Ray said it was a mistake. However, what he saw made him think that something bad happened in room 10. Despite it being Sunday, Howard arrived, wanting to talk to Ray. Now the sheriff is interested in where Ben is. In his opinion, Ben may know something about what happened. Unfortunately, Ray doesn't know where Ben Herling is. Suddenly Howard made it clear that he was aware of the accident that happened to their daughter. He also knows that there were quarrels in the family, and Ray abused alcohol. Ray no longer wanted to discuss this, but Howard wasn't going to leave without anything. Now he needs any help in the investigation. Ray provided him with a registration journal. Cassie registered under the name Sally Smith and stayed here about 6 times. Howard is aware that Ray was in the bar with a weapon yesterday. Ray began to shift the conversation, saying that Cassie is raising suspicions. Howard asked him to report any unusual things and to inform the police if Ben contacts him. Since Ben's previous phone number was unavailable, Ray tried to find out his new number. Finally, Ben himself called him back. They agreed to meet at the town's exit. Ray went to the agreed upon place. Ben soon arrived too, and as the first thing made sure that Ray wasn't bugged. Ray directly asked if Ben installed the one-way mirror in room 10. Ben assured him that he was just interested in studying people from a sociological perspective. Upon hearing the name Chrissy, Ben advised Ray and his wife to leave these places right now. Ben is even willing to give Ray half of the motel money back. Suddenly a shot rang out. The next second Ben fell lifeless. Ray hurried to leave the area and called his wife, telling her to lock herself in and not open the door for anyone. However, when Ray returned, his wife was no longer in the house. The rooms were turned upside down. Ray had bad suspicions. The door to room 10 was locked, so Ray ran to the storage room, to the mirror. In room 10 Howard was sitting, holding Maggie hostage. Apparently, the sheriff knew nothing about the mirror. Howard wanted everything to look like Ray decided to get rid of his unfaithful wife and then voluntarily end his life. Suddenly Howard's attention was drawn to a noise behind the mirror. When the sheriff approached, Ray, breaking the glass, attacked him. A fight ensued, during which it became clear that Howard was behind all those crimes. Ray managed to get his gun, as did Howard. But Ray managed to shoot first. Maggie was saved. Now the worst was behind. Tommy arrived, asking if room 10 was available. The spouses didn't answer and went to their car, intending to leave these places forever. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.